Hi, I'm Gwen with Apron Improv. Today I'm going to show you how to make a chuck roast. And this is something that some people call pot roast, but it is something that you can morph into multiple different meals. It is very easy, and we are going to use an Instapot to do it. You can do it on the weekend for this home-cooked Sunday dinner, or you can use it even later as leftovers for like 2 different meals. So let me show you how to do it. Welcome back to my kitchen. I am getting a garlic clove or 2 ready here. This is going to go down inside of the chuck roast here. This is kind of a old school secret I got from my grandma. I'm going to use garlic cloves today to help season the meat that we're going to cook into our Instapot. What you want to do is you need 1 to 2 cloves of garlic, depending on how big your piece of meat is. This is approximately a 3.5 to 4 pound piece of meat. And you don't want to use anything bigger than a 6 pound piece of meat, because it's just not going to fit into your Instapot. If you have one of those extra large ones, then of course, by all means, go ahead and use it. But mine isn't that big. I actually got my Instapot whenever I got married, but I probably didn't use it for an entire year because I just didn't know what to do with it. That was probably one of the worst decisions I've made. And whenever I and my husband, we refinished our first kitchen in an old 1900-year-old home, was whenever we had to live out of one pot for, I don't know, 4 months. I was also pregnant at that point, so it was a big change to go from not having any workspace in your kitchen to working out of one pot, so the Instapot saved us. I am going to cut this into slices here. So I kind of smash it just to release some flavor here, but I'm going to slice it because I'm going to stick these slivers down into little holes I'm going to create in the pot roast, okay? So just throughout the meat here, we'll make a couple different incisions and put our garlic cloves down into them. Okay. See, they fit right down in here. And this gives the meat great flavor. And then of course we're going to salt and pepper it. Now that I have my garlic cloves down into the pieces of meat, we're just going to salt and pepper this on both sides. And then we will add some oil into the bottom of our Instapot, put it on brown because you have to get a good sear on both sides of the meat. So I'm going to add more salt to the opposite side, or pepper too. If you didn't have garlic cloves, you could use garlic powder. It would create the same effect. So don't feel bad if you don't have garlic cloves in your house for some reason. So I'm going to take this piece of meat and drop it down inside my Instapot that I have a little bit of oil along the bottom. That helps the meat from drying out. Okay. The meat in the Instapot is going to brown for about 20 minutes on each side. You want to get a deep golden brown on this piece of meat because you want it to sear and lock in all the juices and flavor. If you don't sear this meat, the pot roast is not going to turn out as good as it should be. So you have to develop the flavor. Make sure that you allow for 2 hours to kind of do this between the searing of the meat, putting it in an Instapot, bringing up the pressure, and then allowing it to cook for approximately 50 minutes to 1 hour under high pressure. So this is not exactly something you can walk away from until after you set the Instapot onto a pressure cook. To go along with my pot roast that I'm making tonight, I'm going to prep vegetables while the one side is browning. I will flip it, and then in the meantime, you have all of this done and ready to go. So the other half of the pot roast meal that I like to make is just by throwing these vegetables in the broth that's left over in the pot roast pan. super easy. These will only take like 8 minutes in the pressure cooker whenever you are done with the pot roast. So I'm just gonna like coarse chop these vegetables. I'm gonna leave them, you know, mostly this size. Potatoes pretty big. If you cut them too small, they'll turn into mush. I have done that before. It's just kind of trial and error. So this seems to work out well for us. So I'm gonna let that one alone. So I'm also gonna use a half of an onion. One trick with potatoes, I've already peeled these and they haven't started to turn any colors yet, is that you just put them into cold water. You can peel potatoes days in advance and just set them in your refrigerator. If you keep them cold and covered in water, they're not going to turn brown. So this is how big I'm chunking my potatoes. And these are potatoes out of our garden. And we're nearly at like planting season for a new year. So these potatoes have made it. They're a little bit soft. They're a little bit ugly, but they still taste the same. And I'm just it's cold water. And I'm just gonna throw my potatoes into this, make sure they're covered, and they will be good to go. So we're gonna flip it. Lovely. And another 20 minutes. 20 minutes has elapsed and our pot roast has finished cooking on both sides. You can see this is the side we already have cooked, and then if I can pick up the other side of this, you can see that we have a similar brown going on here. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid so that this can be put under pressure and cook for 50 minutes. I'm going to add about 4 cups of liquid. You can choose to add or not add beef bouillon. I'm not going to add it today. I do it sometimes when I don't have quite as good of a caramelization on the meat. But this looks just right to me today. So 4 cups of water. There's also normally a minimum water requirement within your Instapot. Make sure that you follow those guidelines. This gives us enough broth to, whenever this is done cooking within the pot, that we'll be able to put our vegetables into it. So I'm going to put the lid on. There we go. And I'm going to set it on to pressure, high pressure, so 15 psi. And I'm going to add 50 minutes. That's what aprons are for. Hold on. And hit start. Now this will go from a countdown sort of version. When it hits 0 minutes, it will release the pressure and it will release it slowly. So you'll see that there's quick release versus slow release. I'm not going to be here, so I'm going to let it just release on its own time. If you want to do quick release, you're not going to ruin anything. You're just going to save yourself, 10 minutes of time if you're home and you need this ready at a certain point. But I'm letting this just sit, while I'm not here, and it will be just fine. It will automatically switch on to warm. And when I come back, I can go ahead and take the meat out, put it on a side plate, cover it in foil so that it stays hot, and add my vegetables. And when I add those, you just simply plop them into the broth that's already in there and cook them on high pressure, 15 psi, for about 7 or 8 minutes. Don't do it any longer than that, especially if you cut your vegetables smaller, because they will turn into mush and nobody wants to eat that.